Mike, Lynn, Memorial League, Week 4, Power Rankings. Brought to you by Grizzly Long Cut Chewing Tobacco. Yeah, we got a sponsor this week. So, if you collect your tins and you want to have a variety of flavors, you can do some arts and crafts with them, apparently. This is what comes up if you do a little Google image searching for long cut tobacco. But, got to pay the bills somehow, so we take sponsorship money wherever it comes in. Let's take a look at what happened last week. Week 2 results. Team Mangravy. Blue is load on Stern Rake 95-24. Homies. Coasts past straight out of lotion / lube. Manitwork stays undefeated with a tightly contested battle against the upstart weapons of Matt's distraction. Nice name, not. Stuntcock is gifted a victory by grossly mismanaged Meters 68-56. Tommy's Terminators plays down to the competition with a 53-48 victory over yesterday's Corn. And Logan's Rogers beats Juchi's Giant Jocks to death with a giant 18-inch salami fit for a king. League average this week, 61.27 points, the highest so far. Standings starting to take shape. In the winners division, Tom has a 1-game lead over me. Mike struggling. Dave leading the West division over a couple of 1 and 2 opponents. Jeremy in the North tied with Todd, and Rob, with his victory over Matt, has a 1-game lead in the South. You can see where RTS Sports thinks you're ranked. Interesting. Our rankings are becoming more closely mirrored to the sites, but still not quite there. Studs and duds. This is probably the first week an unowned quarterback is going to lead the league in scoring. And the top running back was on someone's bench. The top owned quarterback was on someone's bench. Marvin Jones wasn't, but Emmanuel Sanders was. So some interesting performances all around. The Kansas City D, 6 picks. Impressive. Vikes D, 22 points. So you look at the top 5 starters, 2 of them are defenses, and so half the league is saying, told you so, newbie, you're an idiot for making fun of us for keeping defenses. So yeah, I get it. I'm never going to make fun of anyone again. Congrats to Jeremy for the King's salami, and it sucks when you score 95 and don't get a salami. All right, let's take a look at the transactions. There was a firestorm of transactions this week. Trades. There's so many trades I didn't even get one of them on the slide here, but we already knew about the D'Angelo for Alfred Morris swap from last week. Pretty solid get for both sides. Matt gets some good draft compensation, and Justin really is able to ensure that he's got a top running back, whether that be D'Angelo or Le'Veon. I gave away a lot today to shore up my team. My thinking being that I'm at 2-1, and I'm lucky to be there, but might as well try and defend the championship. So went out and got a tight end, the nerdiest tight end ever, Kobe Fleener, and then gave up too much for Matt Jones because I do think he has upside to be a keeper, but Rob's probably laughing to the bank. Sean getting smart at 0-3, trading away Edelman for a third, Fleener for a fifth, and then later Bradford for a ninth. So it's nice to be 0-3 if you're going to be flush with picks, and there's a guy like Leonard Fournette just waiting there. So it's really the Fournette derby for the bottom of the league right now, but some smart trades from Sean today, not so smart trades from me, and a good trade last week for both teams between Matt and Justin. Number 12, yesterday's corn. Sitting at 0-3, down a spot, had to move you down. I guess you can be encouraged that Devontae Freeman's on pace for like 1,400 yards, but Tevin's scoring all the touchdowns, so do you start both of them? I don't know. I mean, I ripped you last week for not starting Forte, and now you got Tevin Coleman scoring 3 touchdowns or whatever on the bench. Not that Freeman didn't produce. It's just got to be a little frustrating because if they just played one guy, that's probably the top fantasy running back, period. Rest of your team, I'm a big Marcus Mariota guy, but he has been bad so far. I said last week, he's going to be a keeper, and then he just puts up a stinker, and then I looked at some of the numbers so far, and that offense hasn't been that good, and I was a sucker for it too, in that I drafted Henry thinking, this new exotic smash mouth offense is going to work out. Well, that's what happens when you game plan in the preseason. You look good even though you're facing vanilla defenses and no one's really trying to stop you. You didn't get any tight end points, but on the upside, Doug Baldwin got on track. Number 11. Juchi's Giant Jocks, sitting at 0-3, down a spot from 10. I thought this team was on the upswing, and you had a tough week. Kelsey scored, Fleener scored, Michael Thomas scored, all on your bench. Your starters didn't do really jack. You scored like 30 points. But, hey, you got good value for the 3 guys that you traded, so managing his team pretty smartly, in my opinion. Not sure what I would do differently. If I was 0-3, like I said, I feel like you got a pretty good team, or you had the bones of a good team, but once you're 0-3, playoffs become pretty tough. You might as well start to reload for next year, and that's the beauty of a keeper league is you can still have fun managing your team through a losing season. But you still got some assets where you could load up even further if you wanted to move someone like CJ. Number 10. Stuntcock. I am 2-1, so I'm the lowest ranked winning team. Moved myself up 2 spots up off the bottom. So Dave kind of let me off the hook by starting Willie Snead, not starting Blunt, not starting Deshaun Jackson. So Dave could have quite easily had the victory, and it didn't happen. So I got kind of lucky for the second week in a row because last week it was Forte on Mike's bench. So I can't rightly say that at 2-1 I belong any higher up. A man, Danger Russ Wilson is hurt now. Lockett's looking like a bust. I made a couple trades, so I do feel like I've got some depth now, and I think we're about a week away from Kenneth Dixon time, which could make my team dangerous. We'll see. Number 9. Straight out of lubrication. It's one of those teams where, can you have an underachieving fantasy team? Because this is what you have, Justin. The parts are there, the performance isn't. You got 0 points from your tight end last week, and your best player was your kicker. So this is a team in the pre-rankings I had in the top 3 all the way down to number 9, and that's probably being generous based on the results so far. However, Bell's coming back soon. You've got D'Angelo, and the upside still definitely exists for this team. So it's hard for me to put them any lower than number 9. And this is interesting because it's opposite of what Sean did, right? You're buying, whereas Sean Selling, and you have the same record. Number 8, Team Mangravy. Sitting at 1 and 2, up a spot. Maybe should be higher. Had a real breakout week. Jarvis Landry, great pick. I don't think he's all that talented, but he's got so much opportunity. Him and Taylor Austin, who I have are in a similar position in that they're not that good players. I think Landry's better than Austin, but the opportunity is insane. They're getting such a huge target share, and their quarterbacks love them, so they're going to produce for fantasy. Zach Miller, always a guy who's had all the talent and then just has been injured or has been on a team that had a better tight end. Well, he goes and scores a couple tight ends and scores a couple touchdowns and looking pretty solid there. And then I hate to break it to you, Drew Brees is awesome at football. He can spin it, but he didn't love his mom, and now she's gone. So he's got to live with that. Number 7, Stern Rake. Sitting at 1 and 2, down from the 3 spot. Some bad trends 2 weeks in a row. Cooks didn't look good, and it's not like that was a defensive battle there. That was a track meet at home where he's got great splits, and he didn't do squat. You got the medium version of Andrew Luck last week, so you got good luck week 1, bad luck week 2, and then medium luck in week 3. So he's kind of all over the place. It'd be nice to get some consistency out of him. I do think you've had 2 bad luck wide receiver weeks in a row, and so you probably have a better than a 1 and 2 team. And then the other part is the Jamal Charles problem, right? Because you have Ware and you have Charles. It's always interesting when you own the handcuffs when they're, both become healthy. It's the same problem that Mike has. Who do you play between the two? And it really just means if you could add them together, they're one good back, and together they're frustrating to own. Number 6, Homies. Sitting at 2 and 1, moved you up a spot from 7, and I did this before Dez got hurt. Anyway, or before the news was out. So Gurley obviously got loose, scored a couple touchdowns. He's got all the opportunity and talent in the world. It's just a matter of if his team can get close to the end zone against a bad Tampa defense. They did that all day. Dez scored a touchdown, and then his leg's broken. So that sucks. I don't even know how you're going to field the lineup because you got like 2 receivers on your whole team and 1 healthy running back. So, good luck. Carson Wentz is a total nerd, but he might be awesome at football. The one really interesting thing about your team is Jimmy Graham. It looks like he's Jimmy Graham again. Coming back from a patella tendon injury, that's pretty remarkable. And if he is, look out, because you're flush with keepers again. Number 5, Meters. Being penalized a spot at 2 and 1, even though you're one of the highest scoring teams. Worst lineup management of the week. If you look in the game cast, there's a little percentage thing there that tells you like what percentage of your available points you scored, and yours was the worst. Also, you sent me an offensive text message, so you got penalized a spot. On the plus side, T.Y. gets it done against the Chargers, against a pretty good corner, Jason Verrett. He made him look bad. You'd think Verrett versus Hilton would favor Verrett. They're both kind of small guys. That would be a good physical matchup for Verrett, but T.Y. made him look silly. Deshaun and Kirk played nice, but thanks for leaving them on your bench. And then Blunt and Hill. That's right up there with Lacey Hyde in terms of physicality and touchdown-making ability from a duo of running backs. So I would punt Latavius back to ancient Rome or wherever he was named and start those two going forward if I was you. But don't let me tell you how to manage a team. You clearly know how to do that. Number 4, Logan's Rogers. Sitting at 2 and 1, huge week point-wise, and it could have been even bigger if Manny Sanders was in the lineup. Aaron heard us all saying he didn't know how to play football anymore, and he gets right against a sorry Lions team, in my opinion. LaShawn McCoy breaks loose after I said, Greg Roman was a good coach. The Bills shouldn't have fired him. Well, they fire him, and then LaShawn scores 2 touchdowns and looks good. Marvin Jones. Here's a guy, I don't know if any of you pay attention to NFL draft wonks, but a lot of those guys were like, Marvin Jones is really good. All he needs is more opportunity. Well, they all might have been right. We already talked about Manny on the bench, and then you got that big old King Salami. So congrats. Moving on up. Number 3, Tommy's Terminators. Sitting at 3-0. It's hard to move down when you win, but I did move you down. Gronk came back, didn't do anything because he needs a quarterback. You might have, if you just look at the 2 deep at running back, you might have the best 2 because DJ's the best. He's the number 1 running back so far, and DeMarco's not far behind. So your 1 and 2 look really good. At receiver, outside of Amari, I think Tajay Sharp is coming back to earth a little bit. Yeah, a couple drops to open the game. And then obviously your other good receivers, Crabtree. So you don't want to start 2 Raiders. Maybe you do. I don't know. Carson Palmer's not good anymore. And then, just too many Raiders. Otherwise, undefeated, and your team scores a lot of points. So that's why you're number 3. Number 2, Weapons of Matt's Distraction. So at 2-1, moved up from an artificially deflated 5. By the way, nice name. Not. I think the first one of these I did, I said, you got all these young receivers, they've got to step up. And mostly they have, aside from Kevin White. Sterling Shepard and Parker are looking really good. Jameis, at least for fantasy, is looking top 5. Just got to play him. I think he was on your bench, and that's why you lost. I would be a little concerned about Zeke getting vultured. Not only to get vultured by Alfred Morris, he got vultured by Lance Dunbar. And it wasn't like the coaches were like, Elliott, get out of the game. He tapped out. So that's weird. I don't think that'll be a common thing, but just something to keep an eye on. And then you were going to be the only guy who had a guy on your roster who was not in the NFL, but ASJ got claimed by the Jets, which, if he can get his shit together, that could be an interesting place for him. Some upside there. Number 1, Mana Twerk. 3-0. Still in the top spot. A lot of the same themes from last week. Mike Evans is still really good. Now he's just scoring touchdowns. It's the only difference from last year. You got that boy named Christine breaking out for a couple TDs. Obviously, you don't even need to play him with Hyde and Lacey. Rudy, finally putting it together, looking like that guy we drafted in the second round, and scoring touchdowns. You got running backs for days. Thanks you should be thanking me. I overpaid for Matt Jones, but I do like him. And then your quarterback's bad, though. Blake Bortles is not good at football. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. He might be worse than Blaine Gabbert. He is. He actually is, because he turns the ball over and Gabbert doesn't. And I think he's your starter. So that's not good. But you're still number 1. So I had to say something bad about everybody. It's in my nature. Predictions. Mana Twerk by a few horse lengths over Homies 66-55. Logan's Rogers continues his hot streak, leaving cellar dwellers straight out of lotion in his dust 71-41. The Meters by a field goal over yesterday's Corn 54-51. Team Mangravy gets even with Stuntcock 49-47. Weapons of Matt's Distraction with an easy win over the dismantled Juchi's Giant Jocks 81-60. And Stern Rake sends Tommy's Terminators to the losers column for the first time all year. 57-50. All right, congrats last week's winners. Better luck next week to the losers. I did go pretty long on this, so thanks if you listened to the whole thing, and we'll do it again next week.